Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Kabir Singh, and this is Against the Grain. This episode is going to make a little bit of a callback to my very first episode, and I'm very excited about that. But before we jump into it, make sure that you like this video, comment on this video, subscribe to this channel if you've not already, and hit that notification bell. On episode 1, I talked about Zyahna Bryant, a BLM activist in her community and University of Virginia student at the time. I'm not going to go into the full story, but I will link the episode 1 in my bio for you to watch in case you don't know the case yet. But the SparkNotes version is that she and fellow University of Virginia student Morgan Bettinger would cross paths on a fateful day in July of 2020 when Zyahna Bryant was holding a protest and Morgan Bettinger happened to be driving on that very same street that was blocked off. She made a comment to the truck driver that was responsible for keeping that street blocked off, saying, "It's a good thing that you're here. Otherwise, these people would be speed bumps, because without that guy, the traffic would just run them over." And then Zyahna Bryant claimed that she directly heard Morgan threaten to run her and her protesters over and said that they would make good effing speed bumps. And then she and her protesters heckled Morgan. And if that wasn't enough, she subjected Morgan to a lot of online bullying. And the icing on the cake is that she almost got Morgan expelled from the University of Virginia. She was placed on the equivalent of a academic probation. Over the next several long months, Morgan Bettinger was able to graduate and got separate investigations to clear her of any guilt. And even Zyahna Bryant later admitted that she might have misheard Morgan. But none of that mattered because it had lasting impacts on Morgan, not only mentally because of all the harassment that she faced, but in her personal life because, for example, she couldn't even get into the law school that she wanted. There's a lot of details in the very first episode that I'm not mentioning, such as how they were able to paint Morgan as a villain. But either way, she's pretty much gone off the map ever since. Probably because of all the online vitriol that she faced over these lies. Now fast forward to the present. Zyahna Bryant is no longer terrorizing innocent people while peacefully protesting, but don't get your hopes up because I said before that she would likely face 0 consequences for her actions. And it looks like not only did that come true, but she's being rewarded for it. She was recently named as Dove's spokesperson for their Fat Acceptance campaign. Now I want to show you a clip of that on her Instagram, just to demonstrate how hypocritical she really is. Let's roll.
My belief is that we should be centering the voices and experiences of the most marginalized people and communities at all times. So when I think about what fat liberation looks like to me, it looks like centering the voices and the experiences of those who live in and who maneuver through spaces and institutions in a fat body. It looks like making accessible spaces and having conversations that are aware of the fact that people have different bodies and that they are interacting with space and people and institutions and communities in a different way. Fat liberation looks like fully embracing those differences and having those conversations instead of shying away.
Okay, pause it right here. She talks multiple times about conversation, but let me ask you, Zyahna, were you about having a conversation with Morgan Bettinger? Did you sit down and apologize to her for all the things she went through because of what you did? No. You pounced on the opportunity to pull the race card because it would help you and your cause, and then you went on living your life as if it was nothing. And do you know how I know that she's not willing to have a good faith conversation? Because on her Instagram, which is public, she's limited the comments. So all she sees is the affirming ones, such as, "You're amazing," and "Love all this for you." This isn't the Instagram of a person that's willing to have a good faith conversation. This is the Instagram of a complete and utter narcissist who lives in her own echo chamber. Somebody posted on X, "I saw a boycott Dove yesterday and didn't know why. Now I do. I'm tired of seeing entitled, no accomplishment, poor role models rewarded for ignorance, divisiveness, and cruelty. By Dove." And that's the saddest part. How far from grace have we fallen that creating hate is what's rewarded. The impulse to act this way has been within us forever, but never has it been rewarded on such a massive scale. And what's more, Dove more than likely knew what they were getting into with Zyahna. I say this because this isn't the first woke campaign that they've had. They did this before with women in video games with characters like this, in an attempt to take a stand against overly sexualized women in video games. And now they're doing this with Zyahna Bryant, a race-baiting hate crime hoaxer. Somebody posted this comment. For how many times she said she wanted open conversation, you know she doesn't want to hear that obesity is unhealthy. And I'm saying that as an obese woman myself. We have to acknowledge reality to be able to fix things. We can be factual and kind to one another. No one is less inherently valuable as human beings because of his or her weight, and all people deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of their size. But from what I've seen in these movements, the goal is not to promote kindness. The goal seems to be to deny the biological realities of how being overweight affects one's health, and to force society to create ridiculous accommodations at every turn, which, for me, really hits it on the head. Because while I believe that everybody deserves to love themselves for who they are, none of these ads, none of these campaigns care at all about personal responsibility and making better decisions for your health. And sure, there are some people with health problems that can't necessarily completely control their weight. And to that point, I believe that everybody deserves a level of grace to an extent. In Zyahna Bryant's case, if you overheard some comment like that without having the full context, you might be a little triggered. But your grace period expires the second that you start instigating violence against somebody else. Because at that point, you're no better than the people that you're speaking out against. And it's especially terrible and to me unforgivable when you admit later on that you weren't sure what was actually said. And I'm all for keeping an open conversation. But I believe that Dove went way too far in that, because when you refuse to take a stand against cut and dry injustices, you allow people like Zyahna Bryant to hold the floor. And yes, everybody deserves a chance to make amends and apologize, but Zyahna Bryant never did that, not even after 3 years. So when people like her say that they want to have a conversation, there's reason to believe the opposite. Her sole purpose is to make herself feel good. And she'll do that by any means. And if you stand in her way, you're an existential threat.
Are you threatening me?
Now, there are calls to boycott Dove. And at the end of the day, we do vote with our dollars. So the next time you're at the grocery store thinking about buying that Dove bar, think about the representatives of that brand. And maybe you'll put it back on the shelf. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you're new to this channel, watch some of these videos. Also, feel free to follow me on social media. Until next time.